All right, super excited today because we're going to do something really, really different. We're going to do something different today. A couple of times in the past, I've done some comparisons between the Villages, Florida, and another market. But I'm really excited about today because there's such a difference between one of my favorite people, Tamara Williams from Bozeman, Montana. There's such a difference between the two markets, not only in like geography, but also temperature. You guys are freezing your tails off right now. We're not, and I'm excited about telling you that. But you're gonna poke your finger in my eye in a minute with the prices that you've got in your marketplace. So, Tamara, welcome.
Thank you, Glenn.
So, all right, let's go straight for it because we were just talking about this off camera. And we're like, $1 million. What does $1 million buy you in both of our markets? And it's so interesting. I'm going to ask you, tell us what's going on. Give us a little bit before you even jump into that. Tell us like where your market was like 2-3 years ago, and now where is it?
Yeah, so 2-3 years ago, you could pick up a 2,500 square foot home for around 600 to 750,000. In today's market, those homes that are of newer quality with nice finishes are sitting right around 1.2 to 1.5 million, depending on where it's located.
Okay, so what has happened in the marketplace the last couple of years and why?
Yeah, so Bozeman is a ski town, so we've always had a pretty good migration pattern from people looking to get out of the cities to enjoy what Bozeman, Montana has to offer. But thanks to COVID, that's been pushed on fast forward, and we have people migrating from other locations that are a little bit more locked down, trying to get a little bit more of a life balance back. So we have a really great airport accessibility. So we are a big destination for telecommuters. We were one of actually top in the country, voted by Google years ago. I'm sure it's even higher now. So you have a lot of very wealthy people that don't have to live here, but want to live here.
Interesting. So we get a lot of that here too, except I think, the income levels are different.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are just moving to places now, especially, I think you named it, like COVID has been a real instigator in people moving around and finding a better place to where they're going to be happier for sure, right?
Most definitely.
All right. So I'm a buyer in your marketplace, and I ask you, Tamara, I've got $1 million. Actually, I have $1 million. What is out there that's actually under $1 million? Let's start there.
So I want to tell you there's 8 or 9 listings underneath $1 million currently in the city of Bozeman, and these are single family properties. Under $1 million will get you an 1,100 square foot home in downtown Bozeman that needs to get renovated. And it'll also get you an $800,000 home outside of Bozeman city limits that's around 3,000 square feet. So obviously proximity is everything, but the closer that you get to the heart of our city, the more expensive pricing has become.
So obviously being on the West Coast, you're getting a lot of people from California, I would assume, right? You're getting a lot of those people.
Yes, our highest migration locations are California and Washington.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So now show us, let's talk about what you can get for under $1 million, for over $1 million.
For over $1 million. Okay, you want to see this?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm excited.
Okay, let me open this up here and I will share my screen with you.
It's so interesting to see the differences in marketplaces. It's just, you never know why things are going to be the way they are. But all right, so here we go. What do we have here?
So this is a 2,200 square foot home in Flanders Mill, brand new construction. single level, which actually is not something that's super common in our market.
So normally you're getting, 2 stories or even tri-level. Is that a thing?
No, tri-level is not a thing. That was stuck in the 90s.
Okay.
But single level and 2-story are definitely something
Got
that's
it.
common here. We don't have a lot of basements just because our city has a high water table.
All right.
And then there's definitely like some development opportunities within the city limits that don't always make sense pencil wise.
What's the big draw for Bozeman? I mean, what are like the top 5 things that you can think of right off the bat?
So it's safe. We have great schools. Obviously, skiing. We have Moonlight Basin, Big Sky, Bridger Bowl, and backcountry skiing. As far as you can see, snowmobiling, ice skating. I mean, those are more than 5, but and then really good food. There's no such thing here as a fast food chain or like chains. I'm just kidding. There are chains, but it's super local
Ooh,
in terms of the businesses here. So most of the restaurants are not franchises. They are mom and pop shops and they have really great food.
that's like almost the opposite here. There's a few mom and pop shops here, as the folks know, but that's very, very different. And it seems, like it's quality of life, right? Like now, also I've heard that, places like you're getting a lot of people that have moved from like places like Jackson Hole, because, those people got priced out of the marketplace because they, now it's like $3-4 million in Jackson Hole. And now, Bozeman is a more affordable place, if you could believe it, right?
Yeah, we get Denver as well, like a high, everybody says that Bozeman is, I want to say, Boulder 10 years ago.
Mm.
So, yeah.
So where is Bozeman? Like, let's talk about this for people that are watching this. Some people might know it. I mean, the people that are going to be watching, obviously, in your channel, people are going to know that. On my channel, they may not know where Bozeman is.
Yeah. Bozeman's in Southwest Montana. So if I show you the whole entire state,
The big state,
yeah, we're at the very bottom end of it.
right?
About 2 hours-ish, maybe 2.5 hours from Yellowstone National Park, not the TV show. And yeah,
Is it really 44 right now?
it is.
That's fabulous weather, like middle
It
of
is.
January in Bozeman. It's
Yeah.
like,
You told me it was cold today. I was like, no, we're actually in the tropics practically.
yeah, that's balmy weather for you for sure.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome. What else so give us like high end, like what else can you buy?
Yeah, so on the high end of the spectrum, there is this great property that
Ooh,
market. Um, this guy was listed by Mike Schlau over at Pure West. In this place, I actually toured it with a client. It has pools, basketball courts. It's quite beautiful. And this one is listed at $39 million. It has its own
nice.
personal pond. And then there's this guy.
That looks like a terrible place to live.
Terrible, terrible. This one I think belongs down in Florida.
Yeah, it does have a little bit of a look.
And then this is like your quintessential Montana home right here that everybody loves.
Yes.
And this is about 4 million.
Okay. More affordable.
More affordable. Yep, 3.8. So I wasn't too far off. These ones were designed by Pearson Design Group. That's a very well-known architect here. He does a lot of business in the Yellowstone Club.
Mhm.
But this is right near the Gallatin River, which
Yeah.
we have world-class fishing. So people also do that here as well. And then there's something, this is actually my listing up against Black Bull, which is a golf community here.
Mhm.
And new construction. And that
Nice.
one's three
How much is
million,
that?
three. And
Nice.
that's actually a really big home. It's about 50, I want to say 5,600 square feet, almost 57.
2-story, obviously.
Yep. And that one actually has a basement.
That's what I was going to ask. It did look that way. Yeah.
Mhm. So this is what you can get in Montana or in Bozeman, over $1 million.
I love it. I love it. How close are you to Yellowstone?
About 2 hours,
Got it. Okay.
maybe 2.5.
Yep.
Believe it or not, we do like to golf here, probably not as much as you.
We're golfing. We're the kings and queens of golf here.
You get a few months, a year.
That's right. You've got a small window. You could have
Yeah.
done it today, right?
Yeah.
It's warm enough. That's great. So how do people find you, by the way? What's the best way to find Tamara?
You can Google best realtor in Bozeman and I will come at the top of the search results. You can also find me on my website at buybozemanhomes.com.
Google knows everything, right? So it's absolutely true, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. All right. So I think I want to share with you, we've got to look at this because some people, I don't think I've done this for any of my folks. And, looking at, we've got 80 properties on the market right now. And looking at the price ranges right now, everything that's going to be over $1 million, which, by the way, it's kind of deceiving because everything over $1 million sells really, really fast, because just like everything else, we've got much more demand than supply. These are the real unique properties. So we've got what, 5 properties that are over $1 million. And to give you an idea, this one here, let's see this one here. This one's on St. James Circle. And let's see, who has this listed? I'm really curious. Okay, actually our company, yeah, Realty Executives in the Villages. Good. That makes me happy. So that means I don't have to edit this out at all. So we can keep that there. So, all right, look, so here's what's interesting. At 1.6 or 1.8, forget what the number. I mean, what's probably going to be interesting about this property here, obviously the Florida look, right? Like, look at those ceiling fans. That's very, very typical here. This, this patio area, this area is like super, super important for a lot of people. And, obviously it's got space in the back. A lot of our properties don't have the type of land that you're going to see in, obviously, Bozeman, Montana. You're going to see some of the properties will have like an acre of land, but typically what I really want to show you is a little bit more.
A pool.
Yeah, it likely does. I want to see.
What's your population?
So the population here in the Villages, funny enough, Villages started didn't exist like about 40 years ago. And so it's a relatively newish community. It's not only 55 plus, it's kind of the 80-20 rule where 20% of the population can be under 55, but you just can't have kids under 18 living. And we've got 135,000 people living here. So it's actually, oh, this is interesting. That's an interesting, that's easily changeable, of course. And, typically something like this, charging station, that's actually become really, really important for us. Is that a thing where you are? I mean, obviously, EVs are popular or becoming more and more popular in different spots. Is that a thing that's really talked about, or is that just like an obvious thing?
That is something that's never talked about. Bozeman does not. I would say we're still into our trucks. Tesla's definitely made a wave here. But a lot of the smaller EVs just don't stay. I'm sure that's going to change because everybody's into it. But we don't have charging ports for them in any of the garages. And you don't see a lot of small cars here just because of the weather.
Well, that's a thing too. And obviously battery power and not wanting to get stuck in inclement weather is a thing too. So that makes a lot of sense. Now there's something in here. Do you guys have like bonds? I mean, it tends to be a little bit more popular here, and that basically that bond, it's an infrastructure thing that basically pays for, roads, sewer, that type of thing. And
Yeah,
that does exist here in the villages. Is that something that exists in Bozeman?
most of the time that's through, I mean, are you talking about within our taxes or is that like a separate?
It's separate and within the tax bill. So it's usually a developer deal where they'll actually charge it. They'll pass it along. So in other words, that particular home didn't have any bond, but when it first started, when it was brand new, it probably
Yeah.
had a $30,000 to $35,000 bond attached to it that gets paid off in time.
So we generally see stuff like that with our major development, but you don't see it really with normal construction. So if you buy
Okay.
a house, it's not something that you ever think about here.
Okay. All right. So it's not a big deal at all.
No, you'd see it like if they were doing a fire hall, but that would affect like the whole entire city. It wouldn't just be for one area.
Okay. Got it. Okay. What about taxes? It's something what does it typically look like?
Yeah, so they say our tax rate, let me look up the tax rate here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, just to give you an idea on this one, like this one going for 1.8, when we're looking at, what the fees are, taxes are 10,000, right, for the year, 10,000
yeah,
quarter.
so I can tell you what I've noticed, versus like what the actual tax rate is. I kind of ignore what the actual tax rate is just because we're a non-disclosure state. So we don't give out our sales prices to the government. So they're always kind of falling a little bit behind on what the actual tax rate is. So in Gallatin County, the tax rate says 0.79. From what I've noticed is, if your home value is 350,000, your tax rate sits right around 0.75 to 1.25% of what the value actually is. From when I've looked at houses in like $1 million neighborhood, that's kind of what the range looks like.
Have you seen it jump up? So are the tax rates kind of fixed? So obviously there were a lot of homes, 5, 6, 7 years ago, you could have found something in the 3, 4, 5 range. But now that things are now, okay, that particular home is probably over $1 million now. How does that affect the tax rate?
Yeah, they redo our taxes like every 2 or 3 years, but I will tell you on a like a $2.5 million home, the taxes on that are about $8,200 a year. And then on a $40 million home, it's about $80,000 a year. $8 million home is 11,500. And some of that depends on whether or not it's in city or out of city limits.
Right. Right. That makes sense. That actually seems pretty reasonable for the value.
Yeah, there's a $1 million home in $1.4 million home in downtown Bozeman, and the taxes are 5,300. So
Okay, so your tax rate is obviously less. We saw something, similar in price. That was actually, we were at 10,000. So, and oftentimes in that, and you have to, one thing we do have to look at, especially here in Florida and in the villages specifically, when you're looking at taxes, you have to look at a couple things. One, you have to look at, okay, is it homesteaded? Because there is a homestead exemption, right? So do you have that as well?
yeah, but our homestead exemption actually only protects you if you get sued. So let's say, and they just increased the rate. So I think it's now like $350,000, $400,000 a person. It just went up is what I was told. So if you get sued, that first $350,000 is protected. But that's what it'll do for you here.
Got it. Okay, interesting.
What does
Okay.
it do for you there?
Well, well, it does the same thing, and here you do get a discount. So it's a pretty significant discount when you're homesteading your property.
In taxes?
In taxes, yes. So if you're living here, 6 months, and a day or more, and you prove that, you've got, you can prove residency here. you're going to get a significant discount on your taxes. It really is a big deal. And for the people that, this is actually something that a lot of people don't know is that obviously if you closed on a home in 2021, you still have up until March 1st to register for a primary residence, AKA homestead exemption, and get that exemption up until March 1st. So
Interesting.
yeah, so you do get the legal protection. That's why O.J. Simpson moved to Florida many moons ago, for that exact reason. He bought like a mega mansion in South Florida for that exact reason.
Oh.
And it's probably the only time I'll mention O.J. Simpson on I got it in, yes.
Oh, that's funny.
That is funny. So, but if you're moving to Montana, if you're moving to Bozeman, Tamara is absolutely the queen of Montana. So you do need to connect with her for sure. Obviously, if you guys have questions, you could also put that in the chat. Any comments as well, and I'll forward that over to Tamara. And if you have questions about Florida, I'm the person for Florida. And of course, my number is 352-572-3796. So if you have questions, you can text me, and also subscribe to our channels. I think that's a big play because we're throwing out some really good information.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Bozeman Homes.
Love it. Tamara, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenn.